The air over Washington that morning felt heavier than weather, thick, electric, waiting for something to ignite. News trucks lined Pennsylvania Avenue like artillery, their satellite dishes aimed at the same building where every presidency had bled and every scandal had been born. Inside, the White House briefing room glowed under white lights, the kind that expose everything and forgive nothing. Then the door opened, and the room forgot how to breathe. Donald Trump walked in without a script, without a teleprompter, without even a hint of hesitation. Just that familiar stride, part performance, part warning. Cameras snapped like distant thunder. He took the podium and let the silence stretch, his hand resting on the mic, the crowd suspended between curiosity and fear. Then, in that trademark low drawl, he said it. Barack Obama has turned justice into a weapon. The words detonated like glass shattering. Reporters looked up. Some smiled nervously, others froze mid-keystroke. Trump leaned closer, his voice deepening, the tone of a man who knew exactly which nerve to touch. He built a system that doesn't protect citizens, it protects power. And now he's aiming it at me, at you, at every American who refuses to kneel. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone whispered, "He's really doing this," but Trump wasn't finished. "They called it fairness," he said, his gaze sweeping the crowd. "I call it control. And while you were watching the circus, he built the cage." It wasn't just a statement, it was an accusation dressed as prophecy. The temperature in the room dropped. Flashbulbs fired. Trump's reflection trembled in the camera lenses, a storm barely contained. And yet, somewhere across town, another podium waited. Barack Obama was watching the broadcast in real time, calm, analytical, almost surgical. His team said nothing. They didn't have to. Because in less than an hour, he would respond, not with anger, not with noise, but with precision. And when he did, the country would remember exactly how silence can cut louder than any shout. Chicago didn't flinch, it inhaled. The auditorium at the Harold Washington Library buzzed under soft amber lights, the kind that make paper look like skin and ink like blood. Rows of folding chairs creaked as phones rose into the air, a forest of black mirrors waiting to capture a moment that might outlive everyone in the room. Backstage, the clock over the service door clicked like a metronome keeping time for history. Barack Obama stepped into the wing, jacket unbuttoned, tie loosened by a quarter inch, deliberate choices, the grammar of calm. He didn't rehearse a takedown, he arranged a conversation. A staffer handed him a single card. One line. He slid it into his inside pocket without looking. Then he walked out the way surgeons enter an OR, steady, unseduced by the drama he was about to open. The applause wasn't thunderous, it was precise. He nodded once, set both palms on the lectern as if grounding himself to the country through the wood, and let the quiet expand until it could carry weight. A microphone hissed, settled. He glanced at the press pen, lenses blooming like midnight flowers, and began. "Justice isn't a bat you pick up when you're losing an argument," he said, voice warm but edged. "It's the rule book we all agreed to before the game started. No flourish. No spike. Just the sentence landing with the heaviness of a safe clicking shut." A ripple moved through the crowd, not cheers, recognition. Obama didn't chase it. He told a brief story about a South Side clinic, about a nurse who kept a handwritten ledger because the computer crashed every Tuesday, about a teenager who showed up with a bruise and a lie. "The law is supposed to work for people who can't afford a good story," he said. "It's what keeps the powerful from narrating their way out of consequences." Somewhere in D.C., a television muted itself. He shifted, letting the room breathe. "I've been called a lot of things," he added lightly, "but the idea that I built a cage while folks were juggling chainsaws in the dark, well, that's not how systems actually get built, or how they fail." Laughter, quick and human, then gone. He tapped the lectern once, a conductor's cue. "We're going to show our work tonight. Dates. Memos. The parts nobody reads until the sirens start." Behind him, a screen hummed awake, timelines, footnotes, the quiet architecture of accountability. He looked back to the crowd, almost smiling. "This isn't about volume," he said. "It's about verification." Phones lifted higher. The forest leaned toward the light, the first slide didn't roar. It whispered, a single PDF header glowing pale blue against the dark, Office of the Inspector General, 2018. The air in the room shifted, a ripple of paper and pulse. Obama didn't speak yet, he let the silence translate. Every journalist in the front row began typing without being told why. He finally said, I believe in memory, not the kind we post, but the kind that's written in ink and time-stamped. Click. Second slide. Internal DOJ memos. A timestamp from Trump's early term. Words that didn't need narration, directive, fast-track cases targeting political adversaries under national security label. A murmur rolled through the room, part disbelief, part recognition. Obama turned, hands clasped behind him, professor, not performer. Here's what happens when justice gets merchandised, he said. Truth becomes something you can bid on. His tone didn't rise, but his cadence sharpened, deliberate, surgical. When you start using the law to punish critics, you stop governing. You start auditioning for history's villain list. The crowd was quiet now, not out of respect, but because every word was an indictment wrapped in poise. Obama moved to the next slide, a chart, red lines climbing like infection. Every democracy has an immune system, he said. Corruption feeds on silence. And lately, silence's diet's been rich. Phones captured every syllable. Across social feeds, the stream went viral within minutes. Hashtags bloomed, hashtag justice is not ammo and hashtag Obama receipts. Trump's team saw it, panicked, scrambled statements in draft folders. But the momentum wasn't in their hands anymore. Obama paused, gaze fixed on the audience. They wanted to make justice a weapon, he said softly. I just decided to show them who loaded the gun. A beat of silence. Cameras clicked like applause. Somewhere, in the West Wing, a glass hit the floor. By the time Air Force One landed in Palm Beach, the internet was already on fire. Cable news split screens like a courtroom, Obama on the left, Trump on the right, truth versus thunder. The former president had dropped documents like quiet grenades. Trump's team needed noise to cover the blast. Inside Mar-a-Lago, chandeliers trembled from the weight of a dozen camera crews being herded into the ballroom. Gold curtains drawn, flags set, podium lit like an altar. Trump entered fast, not the slow, confident stroll of his rallies, but the march of a man cornered and determined to bite his way out. The crowd roared, sensing blood. He gripped the mic, knuckles white. Barack Obama is a liar, he started, voice hoarse, almost cracking, and a manipulator who built the deep state that's been after me from day one. The sentence hit the room like lightning finding a flagpole. He wants to talk about memos? Let's talk about spying, wiretaps, leaks. The crimes they covered up while pretending to be saints. Cameras flared, reporters shouted questions. Trump waved them off. He calls it verification, I call it vendetta. And now he wants to look like the good guy while I get prosecuted for defending you, the American people. The rhythm rose, practiced rage blending with genuine fear. Then came the dagger. Obama talks about justice, but under his watch, American patriots went to prison while his friends got book deals. That's not justice. That's hypocrisy wrapped in a Harvard diploma. The crowd erupted. Chants of USA, USA filled the chandeliered hall. But behind the noise, you could see it, a flicker of something brittle in Trump's eyes. Rage masking panic. He slammed the podium once, hard. He wants a debate? Fine. Tell him I'll meet him anywhere, no notes, no teleprompters. Let's see who America believes. Reporters lunged for microphones. Headlines detonated in real time. Trump challenges Obama to live showdown. But outside, beyond the velvet gates, the country was already answering, not with shouts, but with silence that hummed like electricity. Because this wasn't a debate anymore. It was a reckoning between noise and narrative. The invitation didn't come through a press release. It came through a tweet, 8 words that froze the political bloodstream. Tell him I'll meet him. His rules, my truth. B.O. By dawn, those 8 words were everywhere. CNN rolled them on repeat. Fox dissected them like prophecy. Commentators called it a duel for democracy, the kind fought not with pistols but with microphones and memory. 3 days later, the stage was set at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, neutral ground, historic, symbolic. The same marble that once echoed the founders' signatures now waited to hold a verbal gunfight. Trump arrived first, entourage blazing, camera crews elbowing through a storm of shouts. His red tie cut through the chaos like a flag of war. He smiled, but the edges of it were wrong, too tight, too rehearsed. Obama came next. No entourage. Just a black suit, unbuttoned collar, and that look, the one that said he'd already done the math. The crowd hushed. The air itself seemed to tense. The moderators didn't even get through the introductions before Trump leaned toward the mic. Barack, you've fooled this country long enough. You weaponized justice, you spied on Americans, and you're still acting like the victim. Obama didn't answer right away. He studied Trump the way a chess player studies a man playing checkers with dynamite. You ever notice, he said finally, voice low, deliberate, that people who fear accountability call it persecution? The audience exhaled all at once. Trump's jaw tightened. The moderators exchanged a silent prayer. But Obama didn't stop. I'm not here to talk about the past, he continued, eyes fixed on Trump. I'm here to talk about what happens when power forgets restraint. Because that's when democracy stops being a system, and starts being a spectacle. The crowd erupted, half cheers, half gasps. Trump pounded the table. Spectacle, he barked. You wrote the script. Obama leaned forward slightly. Maybe, he said, but you turned it into a rerun. The audience laughed, but it wasn't amusement, it was recognition. In that moment, the power in the room shifted, almost imperceptibly. For the first time, Trump looked smaller, his voice suddenly too loud for its own echo. Somewhere backstage, an aide whispered, he just lost the room. And out in America, millions leaned closer to their screens, sensing that what came next wouldn't just be a debate. It would be the moment one man's noise met another man's truth. The crowd felt it before it saw it, that split-second tilt when control changes hands. Trump was still talking, voice rising, words spilling into chaos, but the rhythm had cracked. The more he pushed, the calmer Obama became. He sat perfectly still, elbows resting lightly, the stillness of a man who knows gravity is already on his side. You see, Trump barked, jabbing the air, this is what happens when elites get away with everything. You built the mess, and now you're preaching cleanup. The audience half roared, half winced. The heat of spectacle had replaced the weight of truth. Obama waited, not interrupting, not blinking. Then, softly. Are you finished? The phrase landed like a hammer wrapped in silk. Even Trump hesitated. Obama leaned toward the mic, voice steady, surgical. You talk about law and order like it's a slogan. But the law isn't your sword, and order isn't your property. It's the agreement we all signed the day we called ourselves a democracy. Gasps fluttered through the hall. For the first time, Trump's mouth opened, but no sound followed. Obama continued, pacing each syllable like a verdict. You've mistaken fear for leadership. Power for justice. Noise for truth. He reached into his pocket and unfolded a note, one line, handwritten, the presidency tests your soul before it protects your ego. He placed it on the podium, let the cameras zoom. That, he said, was left for me by George W. Bush on my first day in office. I didn't always agree with him. But he understood something you still don't, this job was never about you. The room exploded, not in cheers, but in the kind of stunned silence that means everyone just witnessed history bending. Trump tried to recover, shouting over the noise. You think you're better than me? Obama's reply was quiet, final. No, he said. I just never forgot who I was serving. The cameras caught it. The crowd rose. And across the nation, timelines ignited with a single phrase that would echo for weeks, "Are you finished?" By sunrise, America was split down the middle, half in awe, half in shock. Cable anchors used phrases like, "historic humiliation," and "the night the tone shifted." What no one said aloud was that they'd all felt it, the moment Trump stopped leading the narrative and started drowning in it. Clips flooded every platform. Obama's calm, the folded note, that forward phrase, "Are you finished?" looped endlessly, dissected like scripture. Hashtags blazed across feeds, hashtag finished, hashtag the note, hashtag silence wins. Even late-night comedians dropped their punchlines, they didn't need them. The moment was the joke and the lesson in one. Inside the West Wing, Trump's staff scrambled like a team trying to catch a falling chandelier. Aides fought over damage control memos, others tried to spin humiliation into heroism. But nothing stuck. The footage was too clean. No edits, no cuts, just truth unfolding live. Meanwhile, Obama's camp stayed silent. No interviews, no statements. Just stillness, deliberate, unnerving. The restraint was the message. By afternoon, polls began to shift. Independent voters, once numb to outrage, started quoting Obama's words in comment threads, in classrooms, even in sermons. A pastor in Atlanta told his congregation, "The man didn't raise his voice, but the truth sure did." That night, Trump went on Truth Social, posting in all caps, "Obama is a fraud. Media cover-up. I won that debate." But even his own supporters knew it felt hollow. The replies weren't loyalty, they were noise. The kind of noise that fills the space after credibility collapses. Across dinner tables, Americans didn't argue about who was right. They talked about who was calm. About dignity, restraint, and the strange, forgotten strength of not shouting back. And somewhere in Chicago, Obama sat by a window overlooking the lake, the note still in his jacket pocket. He whispered to no one in particular, "Maybe now, we can talk about the truth instead of the noise." The next 48 hours felt like an aftershock wrapped in chaos. Trump's orbit spun into overdrive, tweets, interviews, secret calls to network executives. The word revenge wasn't said out loud, but it hovered over every conversation in Mar-a-Lago like smoke after gunfire. At dawn, Fox ran a headline that screamed, "Obama's staged attack, sources claim deep state scripted debate." Within hours, bots amplified it. Memes appeared showing Obama with teleprompters edited into his glasses, doctored screenshots of rehearsal emails, all fabricated, all viral. The campaign was surgical, make the truth look rehearsed and the lie look spontaneous. Trump called it Operation Reset. Behind closed doors, his senior advisor read out the daily objective: flood the narrative. Drown the silence. Meanwhile, conservative influencers filmed shaky videos in truck cabs and kitchens, eyes wide, voices trembling with outrage. He disrespected the office. He disrespected the people. The anger was contagious, not because it was real, but because it was familiar. And yet, something didn't land the way it used to. The more Trump shouted, the more people compared his rage to Obama's stillness. Late-night hosts played clips side by side, Trump pounding a podium, Obama whispering, "Are you finished?" Ratings soared. But Trump wasn't aiming for laughs anymore. He wanted fear. In a closed meeting, he slammed a folder on the table. "I want him investigated. Everything. Find something, make something, I don't care." An aide hesitated. "Sir, if we do it," Trump snapped. "He thinks he's untouchable. Let's remind him he's not." Outside, protesters gathered. Some carried signs saying, "Stand tall, speak soft." Others shouted, "Lock him up." The country had split into two languages, noise and reason, and they were no longer capable of hearing each other. That night, a single leaked memo hit the Washington Post. It read, "Internal directive, coordinate DOJ inquiries regarding former President Obama's finances. By midnight, the word weaponization was trending again. But this time, it wasn't about justice. It was about vengeance. Obama's silence had become its own gravity. Every day he said nothing, the noise around Trump grew louder, more frantic, more desperate. Commentators began asking the same question: why isn't he responding? But Obama wasn't ignoring the storm. He was studying it. Behind closed doors in a quiet Georgetown townhouse, his team gathered: policy advisors, civil rights lawyers, digital strategists. On the table, a hard drive, an unmarked folder, and a single post-it in Obama's handwriting. It read, "When they make chaos the message, show the receipts." 3 days later, he moved. No leaks. No fanfare. Just a 30-minute live stream titled "Truth, Unedited." No graphics, no music, just Obama at a wooden desk, sleeves rolled, the same calm that had driven Trump to fury. He looked into the camera. "I've been called a lot of things these past weeks," he began, voice even, deliberate. "But there's one thing I've never been called: unprepared." Then he opened the folder. Each document stamped, verified, traceable. DOJ communications. Leaked internal memos. Audio clips revealing directives from Trump's own administration pressuring agencies to investigate political enemies and control the narrative. "You can't shout over evidence," he said quietly, sliding the papers across the desk. "You can only hope no one's listening." For 20 minutes, he didn't raise his voice once. He let the facts speak, the way silence speaks after thunder. When he finished, he said one last line that froze the country mid-scroll. "Power isn't who speaks loudest. It's who doesn't have to." Within hours, every network cut into regular programming. Hashtags exploded: hashtag truth unedited, hashtag receipts over age, hashtag the calm doctrine. Trump fired back instantly on Truth Social: lies. Fake. Old memos. But his words had lost their weight. Every denial only amplified the contrast. In classrooms, professors replayed Obama's stream as a study in composure. In households, parents replayed it for their kids as proof that strength doesn't need volume. And somewhere in the White House residence, Trump watched the clip in silence: no aides, no cameras, just the sound of his own breathing growing louder with every word Obama didn't say. The morning after Truth, Unedited, America didn't wake up, it sobered up. Streets were quieter, cable panels slower. The country had spent years addicted to outrage, but now it was confronted with something more dangerous: reflection. Editorials flooded the feeds: the power of restraint, when calm became a revolution, and Obama's silence was the loudest sound in America. Students debated it in classrooms, ministers quoted it from pulpits. It wasn't just politics anymore, it had become psychology, an autopsy of noise. In the West Wing, aides moved through hallways like ghosts. Trump paced, red-faced, muttering that he'd been betrayed. He wanted another rally, another fight, another headline, but none of it landed. Networks had stopped broadcasting him live. The spectacle had burned itself out. Meanwhile, Obama visited the south side of Chicago, unannounced. No press, no cameras. Just a circle of high school students waiting in a community center painted with murals of hope and grit. One student asked, "How did you stay calm when he tried to tear you apart on live TV?" Obama smiled softly, the kind of smile that carried years. "Because calm isn't weakness," he said. "It's control. And when you keep your control, you take back the power they tried to steal." Outside, a muralist who'd watched the debate days earlier began painting on the center's outer wall, Obama's silhouette, hand resting on a desk, and underneath, the words that had silenced a nation: "Are you finished?" That image went viral again, not as a meme, but as a monument. It became shorthand for dignity under fire, for every person who'd ever been talked over, dismissed, or baited into anger. Weeks later, a journalist asked Obama if he thought he'd won. He paused, looking out at the Chicago skyline. "Winning was never the point," he said. "The point was reminding people what truth sounds like when you stop yelling." The clip closed on his final words: steady, quiet, unforgettable. Power that doesn't listen isn't power. It's noise. And noise always fades. And with that, the story that began in fury ended in stillness, not silence, but peace earned the hard way. In the end, power isn't volume, it's control. Truth doesn't shout. It stands. If this story moved you, share it. Because silence, when chosen, changes everything.